Welcome to Glisso English. Real life stories.
Have you ever looked at a text invitation from your friends, looked at your bank account, and felt your stomach sink? You want to go to that $20 dinner. You really do. But this week, $20 is your entire grocery budget. So you type out a lie. Hey guys, sorry, I'm just so swamped with work tonight. Take a rain check? Inside, you're secretly terrified that if you keep saying no, they'll eventually stop asking. Welcome back to the channel. If you've ever felt the sting of the rain check shame, you are definitely not alone. In today's story, we're following Maya, a young woman trying to balance a tight budget with a close-knit group of friends. As we watch her navigate this incredibly common real-life struggle, we are also going to learn some highly practical everyday English. Today, you'll master the phrasal verbs we use when planning social events, polite, natural ways to decline an invitation without sounding rude, and the essential vocabulary for having tough, honest conversations with the people you care about. Grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into Chapter 1, the group chat dread. Maya's phone buzzed loudly on the kitchen counter. It was a Friday evening plan in the making. The group chat, playfully named The Core Four, was lighting up with rapid-fire messages. Chloe, Taco Friday, anyone? Let's check out that new spot downtown. Dan, count me in. I'm absolutely starving. Sarah, yes, I've been dying to try their signature margaritas. Maya stared at the screen, and a familiar pit formed in her stomach. She hesitantly unlocked her phone, not to reply, but to open her banking app. She already knew what she would see, but she prayed for a miracle. Available balance, $14.52. There were still 6 long days left until payday. A single plate of tacos at this trendy new place would easily cost $15. Add a drink, tax, and tip, and she would be looking at a $30 night out. It was completely impossible. She couldn't even afford the subway fare to get there. Just tell them you're busy, she whispered to the empty room. But this was the 3rd time this month she would have to decline. Last week, it was a coworker's birthday dinner. The week before, a casual movie night. Every single time, she had manufactured a convenient, polite excuse. I'm feeling a bit under the weather, or I have to work late tonight. She looked back at the glowing screen. Chloe was already tagging her. At Maya, you coming? We need to reserve a table. Maya's fingers hovered over the keyboard, her heart beating a little faster. The real dread wasn't just about missing out on the delicious food or the laughs. It was the terrifying fear that if she kept saying no, they would eventually stop asking her altogether. With a heavy sigh, she began to type. Maya's thumb hovered over the blinking blue cursor. She needed a story, a perfect excuse that wouldn't make her look bad or broke. I have a terrible headache, guys, she typed out. She stared at the words and quickly tapped backspace to delete them. No, she had used the headache excuse just 2 weeks ago. If she used it again, they would think she was chronically ill or just making things up. She tried a different approach. Hey, my manager just dumped a massive project on my desk, so I have to work late. Again, she hesitated and wiped the screen clean. Lying made her chest feel tight, like she was wearing a coat that was 2 sizes too small. These were her best friends, the people who knew her quirks and habits. What if they caught her in the lie? What if someone saw her walking to the grocery store later tonight? The minutes were ticking away, and she could see the typing bubbles popping up again on the screen. They were waiting for her response. Finally, she settled on a classic, vague explanation.
Hey guys, I'd love to, but I am absolutely exhausted from this week. I think I need to just stay in, take a bath, and get an early night. Have a taco for me. Let's take a rain check? She took a deep breath and tapped the send button before she could change her mind. Within seconds, Chloe replied with a sad face emoji. Oh no, we'll miss you, but go get some rest. Dan sent a thumbs up. No worries, catch you next time. Maya locked her phone and threw it onto the bed. She felt a sudden wave of relief, but it was immediately crushed by a heavy blanket of guilt. The lie had worked, but it didn't feel like a victory at all.
The sun had fully set, casting long, lonely shadows across Maya's small studio apartment. She sat on her second-hand sofa, holding a warm bowl of cheap instant noodles. It was a far cry from the gourmet tacos and fresh margaritas her friends were currently enjoying. For the past hour, she had tried to distract herself by reading a book, but her mind kept drifting. Eventually, the temptation became too strong, and she picked up her phone. She opened Instagram, her thumb automatically scrolling through her feed. And then, there it was. Sarah had posted a story just 10 minutes ago. In the video, the restaurant was lively, decorated with colorful paper lanterns and filled with happy chatter. The camera panned across a table piled high with steaming fajitas, fresh guacamole, and colorful drinks. Chloe and Dan waved cheerfully at the camera, laughing at some inside joke. Maya felt a sudden sharp pang of FOMO, the fear of missing out. She stared at the video, feeling like a ghost looking in through a window. They looked so happy, and the party was going on perfectly well without her. A cold chill of anxiety washed over her as a dark thought crossed her mind. What if they realize they don't actually need me around? What if my absence just becomes the new normal for them? She closed the app and set the phone face down on the coffee table. The silence in her apartment suddenly felt incredibly heavy. She took a slow bite of her noodles, but they had completely lost their flavor. By Monday morning, the guilt and anxiety from Friday night were still eating away at Maya. She knew she couldn't keep hiding forever, but her bank account was still empty. Desperate to see her best friend Chloe, she decided to try a different approach. Instead of waiting for another expensive dinner invitation, she decided to take control. She picked up her phone and texted Chloe. Hey, are you free for a quick coffee walk tomorrow morning before work? It was the perfect hack because a simple black coffee would only cost her $4. Chloe agreed instantly. I'd love to. Let's meet at our usual spot. On Tuesday morning, the sun was bright, but Maya's nerves were on edge. As they stood in line at the cafe, Chloe looked at the glass display case. Oh, those almond croissants look amazing. Are you getting one, Maya? Maya's heart did a quick flutter as she calculated the extra $5 in her head. No thanks, I actually had a massive breakfast at home, Maya lied smoothly, though her stomach was empty. They walked through the nearby park, holding their warm cups and catching up on the weekend. But Maya couldn't fully relax. She was on high alert the entire time. Every time Chloe paused near a boutique window or a gourmet juice bar, Maya's chest tightened. She was terrified her friend would suggest getting a second drink or sitting down for lunch. She loved Chloe, but socializing on a budget felt like walking through a minefield.
2 weeks quickly slipped by, and Maya's financial situation had barely improved. When the group chat proposed a Thursday night sushi outing, she panicked and declined again. She used her go-to excuse, a sudden, exhausting migraine. The next afternoon, she went to the local supermarket to buy some basic groceries. As she turned down the pasta aisle, she froze. Sarah was standing right there, holding a box of spaghetti. "Maya, hey!" Sarah smiled warmly, but her eyes held a hint of surprise. "Oh, hey, Sarah," Samra stammered, feeling her cheeks turn bright red. "How is your head? We were so worried about you last night," Sarah asked, looking closely at her. "Oh, much better, thank you. Just needed some sleep," Maya lied, desperately wishing she could disappear. Sarah nodded slowly, her smile turning a bit sympathetic and distant. "You know, we've really missed you lately, Maya. You've been a bit of a ghost." The word ghost stung like a physical blow to Maya's chest. "I'm sorry, I've just been so incredibly busy," Maya mumbled, holding her cheap loaf of bread. "I get it, life happens," Sarah said softly, "but Dan even wondered if you were mad at us." After a brief, awkward conversation, Sarah waved goodbye and walked toward the checkouts. Maya stood frozen in the aisle, looking down at her grocery basket. She realized her clever excuses hadn't protected her at all. Instead, they were building a reputation for her as someone who was cold, distant, and unreliable.
The phone call on Friday afternoon caught Maya completely off guard. It was Chloe, and her voice didn't have its usual bubbly tone. "Hey, Maya, do you have a quick minute to talk?" Chloe asked, sounding quiet and serious. Maya's heart began to hammer against her ribs. "Yeah, of course. What's up?" she replied, trying to sound cheerful and relaxed. Chloe sighed softly on the other end of the line. "I don't mean to pry, Maya, but I'm really worried about you. Is everything okay?" The question hung heavily in the air, making the small apartment feel completely silent. "Yeah, everything is fine. Just incredibly busy with work," Maya offered, pulling up her usual shield. "Are you sure? Because you've bailed on us 3 times this month," Chloe said gently. "Sarah said she saw you at the grocery store yesterday, and you seemed really distant." Maya bit her lip, her eyes suddenly stinging with unshed tears. "Did we do something wrong? Are you mad at us?" Chloe's voice cracked slightly with genuine worry. That was the absolute breaking point. Maya realized her friends didn't think she was busy. They thought she was pulling away from them. The shame of having an empty wallet clashed with the terrifying fear of losing her best friends. "No, Chloe, no, please don't think that," Maya cried out, her voice trembling. "It's not you guys at all. I promise, it's really not you." There was a long, heavy pause on the line as Maya gathered the courage to speak. I need to tell you the truth." An hour after the phone call, Maya found herself sitting in the passenger seat of Chloe's parked car. The rain pattered gently against the windshield, creating a private, quiet space. Maya stared down at her hands, her knuckles white from gripping her jacket. "I'm just really tight on cash, Chloe," Maya finally whispered, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. The secret was finally out, floating in the quiet air of the car. "I've been pinching pennies for months just to pay my rent and utilities." She took a shaky breath, tears finally spilling over her eyelashes. "I can't afford a $20 dinner, let alone drinks or rides home." She braced herself for the awkwardness, the pity, or worse, the judgment. But Chloe didn't gasp or offer empty, comfortable platitudes. Instead, she turned in her seat, reached over and placed a warm hand on Maya's arm. "Oh, Maya," Chloe said softly, her eyes filled with genuine sadness. "I had absolutely no idea you were struggling like this. Why didn't you just tell me?" Maya let out a weak, bitter laugh. "Because it's embarrassing, Chloe. I felt so much shame." Chloe shook her head firmly, squeezing Maya's hand. "You never, ever have to feel ashamed with us. Your presence is what we want, not your money."
As they sat there, the heavy weight in Maya's chest began to lift, replaced by a strange, warm feeling of relief. It was a vulnerability hangover, but for the first time in months, she felt truly seen.
True to her word, Chloe didn't let Maya's confession change their friendship. Instead, she quietly set out to change the way the entire group hung out. On Monday afternoon, a new notification popped up in the Core 4 group chat. This time, it wasn't a link to an expensive downtown restaurant. Chloe: "Who is up for a cozy game night at my apartment this Friday?" Chloe: "It's a BYOB and potluck affair. Bring whatever snacks you have in your pantry." Maya stared at the screen, and for the first time in months, her stomach didn't tighten. A potluck was something she could actually manage. She could easily bake a batch of homemade cookies using simple ingredients she already had. Dan: "I am so down. I'll bring some chips and dip." Sarah: "Yes, I've been wanting a chill night in. Count me in." Maya took a deep, steady breath and finally typed a response she didn't have to delete. Maya: "I'd love to come. I'll bring some chocolate chip cookies." When Friday evening arrived, Chloe walked up the steps to Chloe's apartment with a small plate of warm cookies. The atmosphere inside was warm, filled with the comforting scent of popcorn and easy laughter. There was no menus, no expensive cocktails, and absolutely no looming dinner bill to worry about. As they set up the board game, Maya looked around at her friends' smiling faces. She realized she didn't need to lie or hide away to keep her place in this circle. They just wanted her there, sitting around the table, sharing the simple joy of being together. The roll of the dice and the loud groans of defeat echoed through Chloe's warm living room. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, laughing so hard her stomach physically ached. For the first time in months, she was fully present in the moment. She wasn't calculating the tax and tip in her head while trying to look interested in the conversation. She wasn't staring at a menu, desperately searching for the absolute cheapest appetizer to order. She was just Maya, playing a silly game with the people who knew her best. "No way, Dan! You can't trade that card now," Sarah shouted, pointing a finger in playful accusation. "It's a perfectly legal move," Dan protested, though a huge grin gave away his guilt. Chloe passed around a bowl of popcorn, stopping to nudge Maya's shoulder gently. "These cookies are dangerous, by the way," Chloe whispered, holding up a half-eaten chocolate chip cookie. "They are officially a game night requirement from now on." Maya smiled, a deep wave of gratitude washing over her. She looked around the room, taking in the messy coffee table piled with cheap chips, soda cans, and homemade treats. It was so simple, yet it felt infinitely better than any pricey dinner downtown. She realized that her friends hadn't missed the fancy restaurants during her weeks of absence. They had simply missed her laughter, her jokes, and her voice in the room. As the night drew to a close, Maya felt a physical lightness she hadn't felt in a very long time. It was the feeling of a massive, exhausting secret finally being laid to rest. She walked home under the cool night sky, her heart full, knowing her friendships were stronger than she had ever given them credit for. A few months later, Maya's financial situation was still tight, but she was slowly finding her footing. She had started a small side project, and her budget was finally becoming more manageable. A sunny Thursday afternoon, the group chat buzzed with a familiar kind of excitement. Dan: "Craving that Italian place downtown. Who's up for pasta and wine tonight?" Maya looked at her banking app and saw she only had $25 left for the week. If this had happened 3 months ago, she would have panicked, spun a web of lies, and spent the night hiding in her apartment. But things were different now. She took a deep breath,
unlocked her phone, and typed her response with absolute honesty. Maya, the pasta place sounds amazing, but my budget is super tight this week, so I'm gonna pass on dinner. But let's do a free park walk and bring our own coffee on Sunday morning. She hit send, and for the first time, her heart didn't race with anxiety. Within minutes, the replies came rolling in. Sarah, totally understand. Have a giant bowl of pasta for me, Dan. Chloe, a park walk on Sunday sounds perfect. I'm in. Dan, save me a spot on that walk. See you Sunday, Maya. Maya smiled and locked her phone, feeling an incredible sense of freedom. By being honest, she had completely stripped the shame away from the words rain check. It was no longer a guilty excuse to hide a secret. It was just a healthy boundary. True friendship, she realized, didn't demand a cover charge. She had kept her friends, saved her budget, and finally found her peace.
And that is the end of Maya's story. It takes a lot of courage to be honest about our struggles, especially when it comes to money. But as Maya learned, true friends care about your company, not your budget. Before we wrap up today, let's quickly review 3 highly practical English expressions we learned in this story that you can start using in your daily life right away. First, to take a rain check. Remember, this is a polite, friendly way to decline an invitation while showing that you definitely want to do it another time. Second, to pinch pennies. A great idiom to describe being very careful with your money or living on a tight budget. And third, to be swamped. A very natural, casual way to say you are completely overwhelmed with work or incredibly busy. You can find all the vocabulary of the story down below in the description box. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to say no to plans because you were pinching pennies? Or have you ever had to have a tough, honest conversation with a friend? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and it's a fantastic way to practice your English writing. If you enjoyed Maya's journey and want to keep improving your English through real-life stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next story. Goodbye.